attack seen around the world.
This man stabbed this woman for no reason. I was there right beside her.
He had no business being there to begin with to interact with that person.
A lunatic just got up and started, it's right on the tape, not really watchable because it's so horrible.
A community catalyzed to self-reflection.
You've got soft on crime DAs, soft on crime judges, soft on crime magistrates, and it's leading to people getting killed.
We are acting as though that we are a mental health facility.
And changes.
We're going to propose a package of common sense policies to more effectively tackle crime in our state.
And as the conversation continues,
please, Raleigh, send us some money.
So do the memories.
She was a daughter. She's a sister. She was here trying to live the American dream.
Of Iryna Zarutska, who was stabbed on Charlotte's light rail 1 year ago. Thanks for joining us as we take a look back at a monumental tragedy that happened near this east-west light rail platform in South End, Charlotte. One that had many impacts, politically, socially, and practically on the Queen City and beyond. On August 22nd, 2025, Iryna Zarutska, a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee, was heading home from a shift at work. She got on Charlotte's Blue Line and 4 minutes after taking her seat, sustained a brutal knife attack. One that ultimately took her life and also sparked a fierce conversation locally, nationally, and internationally. Today, we take a look at the impacts that has had, the changes that have transpired, the developments, and all the people involved. When Iryna Zarutska lost her life on the light rail, it wasn't the only violent act Charlotte's transit system had seen in recent weeks, and it wouldn't be the last. But the storyline and complexity of the case was striking.
She was here trying to live the American dream.
A 23-year-old immigrant from Ukraine, Zarutska had come to Charlotte to save her life, to escape war.
Life was like it is right now, just bombing daily, depending on what province you're in, and you don't know if you're going to live to breathe another day.
Working at a local pizza shop while taking college classes to improve her English, she had a family and dreams for her future.
She was a daughter. She's a sister. She has a little brother. She has a little sister. She loved animals.
Authorities say the man charged with her murder, 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr., was unhoused and had already racked up a notable criminal background and encounters with police in the midst of mental health crises.
DeCarlos Brown suffered from mental illness for years, was a known schizophrenic.
The nuance of his past would set up a layered debate over law and order and the availability of social services.
His mother tried to get him help, and unfortunately that just wasn't there for him, and so we missed the mark on that. The system failed.
When Zarutska stepped onto that light rail car that summer night, many say her fate had already been sealed months and perhaps even years before.
To be honest with you, he had no business being there to begin with to interact with that person.
Shortly after the attack, a frequent rider on Cats told us he saw Brown on several occasions.
Anyone that interacted with him, and I promise you, he was so vulgar, there was no way you could notice him if you had run into him.
The account landed amid concessions from Cats that the transit system was facing security challenges, and perhaps in part due to mental and public health gaps in the community, increasing numbers of unhoused people getting on buses and trains.
It is an example of how we need to get more mental health services to folks who are unhoused in the community.
Furthermore, authorities say Brown was among countless people riding city transit without a ticket, sparking a separate conversation from city leaders over lacking fare enforcement.
They were very serious about fare evasion in the early days, and we've just continually gone downhill since then.
While community leaders were trying to pinpoint the exact ways the system failed and how to fix it, the community was already weighing in on whether the stabbing was an anomaly or a symptom of a criminal justice, mental health support, and transit policy sickness.
You've got soft on crime DAs, soft on crime judges, soft on crime magistrates, and it's leading to people getting killed.
Obviously, you get your few people here and there that may cause some type of concern. Like yesterday, I did get followed actually on the train, but I think that's unfortunately, that's normal for women.
City initiatives that had to do with making it a bit more accessible and a bit more safe would mean a lot to how often I choose that as an option.
Within several days, the city announced a stronger security and CMPD presence across CATS and increased fare enforcement. But for some, the damage was already done.
Unfortunately, now I don't think I will ever step foot on the train again.
And in reality, the push for solutions was just getting started. It was about to grow to a scale many likely didn't expect. When we come back, weeks after the light rail stabbing happened, it goes viral.
She's bleeding. She's bleeding.
As new video of the incident circulates, people in Charlotte and beyond see with their own eyes, for the very first time, the horrific events of that night.
It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible.
And calls grow for accountability and change.
Let it also ignite our resolve that we must not stand by and watch the Charlotte that we love also die in silence.
As we continue our look at how the August 2025 light rail stabbing continues to shape the community, one of the more striking aspects of this case is how attention ballooned on the case in the weeks after Iryna Zarutska's death. One of the likely reasons, people ended up seeing it with their own eyes. With many in the community trying to come to grips with the tragic death of a young woman escaping a war-torn country only to lose her life on her commute home from work, efforts to honor Iryna Zarutska emerged. Memorials grew on the light rail platform where she died.
Seeing the flowers and the pictures, it's beautiful, but somewhat haunting at the same time.
Artwork gave an outlet to process, and people gathered to grieve.
This is about a human being. This is about life and a tragic loss, one that has something that should have never happened.
On a local level, conversations were already happening about what went wrong and what could change.
Whatever we are doing, the current policies and protocols are not working. That's clear.
We need to expand the visibility of CMPD in our trains and our stations.
But that dialogue was only just the beginning, because about 2 weeks after Charlotte was rocked by the news of the gruesome killing, the rest of the world was about to learn about it too.
Breaking tonight to that newly released video of the deadly stabbing on a CATS Blue Line train.
Now everyone was able to see surveillance footage from inside the train car showing Zarutska enter, wearing her pizza shop uniform and looking at her phone. She sits on the bench in front of Brown, who doesn't give a discernible reaction for 4 minutes. Then he pulls out a pocket knife and stabs her 3 times.
We on the train, this man stabbed this woman for no reason. I was dead right beside her.
You said a male stabbed someone for no reason? Do they need medics?
Yes, on the train. Yes, she's bleeding. She's bleeding. At East West Boulevard train station right across. Oh my God, he just stabbed her to death.
While our news team decided not to show the rest of the video to avoid the most disturbing parts of the attack, that didn't stop unedited and more graphic versions of the clip from circulating through other platforms online. The response was swift and strong.
This beautiful face and seeing her balled up, looking around, not realizing somebody had attacked her. That was so horrible.
Then, during an encounter outside Air Force One.
Horrible. No, I haven't heard. When did this happen?
It happened in August, but the video just came out.
I see, yeah, I see the video. I'll know all about it by tomorrow morning.
And shortly afterwards,
I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic. Just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed.
She fled to the safety
or so she thought of the United States, just to have her life senselessly ended by someone who should have never been allowed to walk freely.
While we extend our thoughts and prayers, we must also seek justice for this crime and call attention to this heinous incident.
With a major spotlight now on the Queen City, the political pressure was ramping up.
When Brown was arrested yet again in January of this past year, a Democrat judge, who I will add was a strong supporter of former Vice President Kamala Harris, released this insane criminal once again without requiring him to pay any bail. He simply had to sign a written promise to return for his court hearing.
Federal transportation officials announced an investigation into the matter, and later, a handful of Republican congressmen from North Carolina called for the National Guard to come to Charlotte, citing rising violence and what some were calling soft on crime policies.
We have seen these horrific images. The knife dripping in blood, her panic, the silence of others around her. These moments sear into our minds. But let it also ignite our resolve that we must not stand by and watch the Charlotte that we love also die in silence.
Democrats would push back, citing CMPD statistics showing, at the time, violent crime was down by 20% year over year. Some accused Republicans of capitalizing on a tragedy.
It's outrageous that anyone would politicize their death. What decency do people have at a moment like this, as opposed to trying to find common sense solutions?
The two main arguments emerging would ask, how did mental health support in the community fail someone who clearly needed help and sought it, or had it sought for them at times? And how did the criminal justice system let someone with such a lengthy rap sheet be out on the streets to commit such a heinous crime to begin with?
How can we as a community do a better job of electing these judges? And if you have a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-page history of criminal activity, especially violent activity, why are you still on the streets?
We can drive around Charlotte and see that we need to take care of our unhoused, our homeless, and our mentally challenged citizens. But only when they take someone else's life or commit a heinous crime, then we bring that attention. It should start way before that.
On the matter of both questions, focus landed specifically on Brown's most recent arrest several months before. And eventually, people would get a look at that body camera footage too.
Somebody committed a crime and exposed me without my permission or authorization.
In January 2025, roughly 7 months before the killing of Iryna Zarutska, police say DeCarlos Brown Jr. called them to report a man-made material was implanted inside him and was controlling him.
In terms of assisting you, we're not doctors, we're police officers.
The encounter lasted nearly 30 minutes, with officers trying to get Brown to seek medical help instead, and Brown insisting he already did.
And then they said it's schizophrenic because I hear voices in my head. They got it wrong. It's not their job to investigate something that my body got exposed to.
Eventually, officers arrest him on a misdemeanor misuse of 911 services charge. Police say it's something he'd already done several times.
And I said, I gotta go to jail. You know why? Because they won't investigate what my body got exposed to, because that's not a cop's job.
Meantime, moves in Raleigh to respond to the stabbing were generating debates of their own.
We're going to go through the entire budget for the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County to see where these funds are going, because ultimately we're dealing with a local government, really Mecklenburg County and city of Charlotte, two local governments that, in my opinion, have lost institutional control of their areas.
By the time the misuse of 911 body camera footage became public in November of 2025, legislation called Iryna's Law had already passed North Carolina's General Assembly and gotten Governor Josh Stein's signature. The law sought to change some of the policies lawmakers said led to Brown being out on the streets, including eliminating the written promise to appear that got Brown released ahead of his trial on the 911 misuse, and requiring judges to start the involuntary commitment process for certain offenders.
Iryna Zarutska should still be alive today.
But her life was tragically cut short because of the atrocious policies pushed by out-of-touch politicians and court officials that prioritize a perverted vision or version of equity and politicized social justice over real and tangible justice.
While acknowledging the concepts of the bill appeared fine on face value, some criticized Iryna's law as missing the mark.
It's very focused on penalizing people and punishment, and you cannot punish your way out of mental health.
Nevertheless, the policy would soon go into place, and concerns were growing over what the actual implementation would look like. When we return,
it's like a car with no gas in it. It looks good, but it can't go. It's empty.
Officials grapple with what Iryna's law would mean for local resources, now under new requirements. But funding's still a question.
We are a detention center. We're not a hospital. We are a detention center, but we are acting as though that we are a mental health facility.
And
whatever we're doing now is not working. We've had 2 stabbings, 1 fatal.
A second stabbing on the light rail, just months removed from the one that killed Iryna Zarutska. Less than 2 months after Iryna Zarutska's stabbing death on the Charlotte's light rail in August of 2025, North Carolina lawmakers passed policy meant to curb some of the things they say led to the suspect, Carlos Brown Jr., being out on the streets to begin with. Governor Stein signed it into law. But even with Iryna's law a done deal and set to take effect, there were still big questions about how it would actually be executed.
It's time to get real about the causes of violence and to take meaningful action to address them. Let's roll up our sleeves, actually tackle tough issues head on, and put in place effective solutions to make North Carolina families safer. Let's get to work.
When Governor Josh Stein announced he'd signed the Republican-championed Iryna's law, he did note he did not fully agree with all its measures. He said it failed to consider someone's ability to post bail and that he would not allow what he called the barbaric firing squad execution it reinstated. Meantime, local leaders began expressing their own qualms with the impacts of the legislation in practice.
Funding and bodies. Personnel, that's what we're gonna have funding and personnel. And that would to attempt to achieve success.
Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden and detention center staff were among those raising concerns, saying the law would significantly increase the number of people in the jail, posing capacity and resource concerns.
Overcrowding also reduces efficiency and raises the risk of incidents, making it harder to maintain order.
And while Iryna's law did bring Mecklenburg County its first increase in prosecutors in 15 years, District Attorney Spencer Merriweather said the move was long overdue.
Mecklenburg County has to grow up, Charlotte has to grow up, and making sure that we're filling out our justice system with the resources that it needs is a part of growing up. The truth is that we could use probably twice as many prosecutors as we actually have.
Please, Raleigh, send us some money.
With no foreseeable dollars coming from the state to meet all the goals of Iryna's law, council members said they were at a loss.
It's like a car with no gas in it. It looks good, but it can't go. It's empty.
In December, when the legislation took effect, those concerns did not lessen. The sheriff said the growing jail population was straining the ability to feed, house, and care for inmates. And mental health care providers said there were challenges that were worsening.
Not every resident that comes into the facility is capable of saying, hey, I consent to treatment and is willing to engage with us. So there are currently people here in our facility that won't engage, but our team is very much aware that they have mental health needs.
Then, the very same week, Iryna's law was finally in place.
Ma'am, is the knife still in him?
Public safety efforts would be back in the spotlight, and another violent incident on the light rail would bring state and federal attention to Charlotte once again.
Whatever we're doing now is not working. We've had 2 stabbings, 1 fatal, and that's in addition to a bunch of other more minor crimes, relatively minor crimes, that happen on the light rail every day.
Authorities identified the alleged attacker as Oscar Solorzano, a man who officials say was in the country illegally and had been previously deported. Solorzano was accused of being impaired, challenging another rider to fight, then stabbing him. The injured man survived. But as more came out about Solorzano's background, more scrutiny grew over safety policies. In addition to accusations of him re-entering the country illegally, police say they had already caught him with a knife on the light rail months before, and Katz at that time had banned him from its property. The situation further exposed cracks in the system.
They don't know who's been banned. They have no way of having real-time notifications other than what is listed there in the driver room.
Riders were also weighing in on the level of enforcement on transit they were seeing and how safe they felt following those promises to tighten up.
I've seen them check tickets and people not have them, and they kind of just let it go. So it's increased. I don't know if it's necessarily enforced.
This is absolutely horrifying, and people should not have to live in fear of being one bad stroke of luck away from being the next victim.
The incident led lawmakers in Raleigh to call then Mayor Vi Lyles, new CMPD Chief Estella Patterson, City Manager Marcus Jones, Katz Interim CEO Brent Cagle, Sheriff Gary McFadden, and District Attorney Spencer Merriweather to testify in a matter of weeks.
This hearing is not going to be butterflies and roses. This body is going to get to the bottom of this crisis today.
Republicans said the purpose was to learn about public safety efforts and challenges.
The DA did a great job of explaining some of the issues he's having with his agency or his department, in some ways that the General Assembly could partner with him in addressing some of those. But the sheriff was very combative and resistant to answering.
All we are asking for is respect also. And I'm willing to come here anytime and speak to you all, and will ask, have I been invited by any of you?
Some Democrats, though, said there seemed to be more at play.
It's political season, so they're trying to play a political game.
The House oversight hearing was also just one of multiple investigations into Charlotte's transit. The state auditor would also launch a probe, finding preliminarily the value of private security contracts tripled in the 3 years leading up to Iryna Zarutska's stabbing, but the number of armed guards dropped by at least 40%. The report also said the contract system prioritized minority and women-owned firms, and in one case, excluded other qualified bidders completely. In a letter responding, Mayor Vi Lyles pushed back on suggestions that Katz's security contractor was unqualified, noting, as a presidential candidate, Donald Trump had used the same company during campaign events in the Carolinas. Meantime, a separate federal investigation said Katz failed to establish various procedures to assess and address safety concerns and was inadequate in de-escalation training. Local leaders say they were taking all input into account.
We accepted those findings, and what that then creates are corrective action plans. So CAPs is what we call them. And so ultimately, and those caps have deadlines. And so ultimately, it will be our responsibility to follow those caps.
While plans were still being crafted, some riders said they were optimistic about the changes already visible.
The increased security has been nice to see all around.
So I've seen a lot more people checking tickets, security, and I've seen off-duty police officers as well.
That said, the journey to a safer system was still nowhere near its end.
When you're taking public transportation, there's a level of trust you're giving the city when you get on the public bus or train.
After the stabbing death of Iryna Zarutska, laws changed. And even after Iryna's law took effect, the General Assembly updated the policy, expanding the possibilities for involuntary commitment for those believed to be a threat to themselves and to others. Voters approved a 1-cent sales tax for transportation-related projects, creating a board responsible for spending that money. And that board has said transit safety is a top priority. And Katz celebrated its 50th anniversary, taking the moment to look back at how the agency was grown and how there are changes coming, like AI safety technology and fare evasion prevention. Meantime, the suspect in this case, DeCarlos Brown Jr., has been deemed incompetent to stand trial, both at the state and federal level. But doctors believe with help, one day he could stand trial. And meantime, the conversation around transit safety and mental health support continues. Tough conversations sparked by tough events that transpired near this light rail one August night in 2025. And 1 year later, the impact of Iryna Zarutska remains.